Hey, Chris Lipe here, and in this video we're going to be talking about the top 3 EQ tweaks you can make to your acoustic guitars to make them sound awesome. And though I'm going to be demonstrating with acoustic guitars, these tweaks can be applied to electric guitars as well. If you want to go deeper with some of this stuff, particularly in the area of recording, you can join my free recording course, which is listed in the link below. This channel is all about helping you guys overcome certain obstacles in guitar playing, singing, recording, so that you can make great music. So I've got this acoustic guitar track recorded without any EQ or compression or anything like that. And it's an okay take. It exists in the context of a greater track. And these EQ tweaks are going to help us place it in the mix and just give us an ear for what to listen for if we're hearing something that we want to tweak. What frequencies will work if we want it to be a certain way. So the first thing we're going to zero in on is the low end, and we're going to use what's called a high-pass filter. So a high-pass filter means you're allowing the highs to pass, and you're allowing the lows to be cut. A standard tuned guitar, whether it's electric or acoustic, that has a low E string, that fundamental frequency on that E string is around 82 hertz. So we can drastically clean up the sound of an acoustically recorded instrument, electric or acoustic, but in this case acoustic, if we roll off or cut the frequencies starting about 80 hertz. Let the rest of it go through. We don't need that information. If you have that information in the recording, it's not only going to get in the way of bass or the kick drum or other lower instruments that do take advantage of those frequencies, but it's probably going to be stuff that doesn't contribute to this overall sound of your instrument anyway. Rumble from the room, or some sort of issue with the mic and the resonance that it has with the mic stand, or something like that. In any case, it's not needed. So if we listen to this end section, you're going to hear some low end that may not need to be there, and be sure that you're listening on a good environment. Speakers, not laptop speakers, but real speakers or a good set of headphones. So listen to this. You can hear that doom, 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 doom. It's not part of the actual sound. It's this tubby low-end sound. So if I come over here and we engage this symbol up here, this is right here the high pass or low cut. You can see it's sloped down. And then I'm going to drag this over here like this to where we're at about 80 hertz, maybe a little higher. And you can see I can control how steep it rolls off. I want to roll it off pretty steep, like that. I'm also going to go down here. The higher the number there allows me to make it even steeper. 48 dB per octave. That's a steeper awesomeness. Okay, so we're rolling off about 80 hertz, and I haven't changed anything else about the EQ. I haven't boosted anything. I haven't done anything else. We're just engaging that high pass filter. Now, if you listen here. You're minimizing that tubbiness. Now, we always have to use our ear. I think I could get rid of more of that using this high-pass filter. And this particular thing is in G, so we're not engaging the very low E string much as an E string. It's a G at the end there. There, now listen to the difference. Here's it out. So no EQ. And here it is in. Now you might say, well, does that sound a little thin? Maybe you want some of that low end. You have to consider the context. If I put this in context with the whole band, or the drums and the bass, let's listen from the beginning. So if I have this going, the bass and the drums, and this particular acoustic guitar track, and I go to the end here and listen again, and I engage that EQ. We have the EQ engaged. And I hear the bass. I'm hearing separation. What's happening in the acoustic guitar is not competing with what's happening in the bass. That's the goal with EQ. We want to eliminate competition. When I do that, particularly if I bring this up, if I disengage that low EQ, you hear that movement of the bass and the movement and the strumming of that guitar run into each other in terms of that low frequency information. Now if I engage this, it's subtle, but it's very real. Now I'm creating room in the space, in the audio space, for both of those things to do what they need to do, because I've gotten rid of some of that low-end information that the acoustic guitar doesn't really need anyway. So high-pass filter, that's the first tweak. Start with 80 hertz or so on a standard tuned guitar, and then use your ears. Listen to the other instruments that are happening at that same time, and try to find that pocket using a high-pass filter. Now, why wouldn't you just want to turn down the lows? Because we want to eliminate anything we don't need. We don't want to just turn them down. So particularly with that sort of curve, starting and then out. The second tweak is a presence cut or boost. What frequencies, particularly for guitar, work well as a presence cut or boost? This is relevant with electric or acoustic guitars, and it's lower than you might think. A lot of times on vocals or cymbals, this presence or sparkle can be 10 kilohertz, 10,000 hertz, or 8,000 hertz. For guitar, acoustic or electric, a good starting range is 5,000 to 6,000 hertz. That's going to help you boost the presence. It's going to be higher than most knobs on an amp in terms of the treble setting. And a lot of amps don't have an actual presence boost. So this is a really good thing to know. And it doesn't necessarily mean you need to add presence to everything. It may mean that you need to cut presence, but knowing where these frequencies are, knowing where that starting frequency is going to help you be effective when you're hunting for the sounds to tweak that are going to help let your guitars sit right where they need to in your mix. So if we go back to this same track and we listen in the center here, I'll just take this one here, and I'm going to boost it right here, which is at 20, you can see 2600 hertz, but I'm not going to boost there forever. I'm just going to change the width of that boost. I'm going to make it a narrower boost. And every parametric EQ has these three delineations on how to work with a frequency band. You have width, or sometimes called Q, right here. You have the level at which you're going to boost or cut, and then you have your frequency. And you can generally deal with it by working with the numbers or by going around with the actual curve. Some EQs don't have the curve, so it's nice to know what the numbers and the settings do so you can still work with that EQ properly. So your sweet spot for presence is going to be between 5 and 6,000 hertz. So we're going to go right in the middle, and I'm just going to show you how that sounds when we mess with that in this particular guitar track. So we're not affecting the super high end like we would if we were going above 10. There's definitely stuff up there, but the sweet spot and the true tweakable range with a guitar, because it's more of a mid-range instrument, you're going to get more mileage by first considering this frequency range, 5 to 6,000 hertz. So let's listen in context with just this guitar and my bass and drums. Of course, this changes when you have other things that you're working with, other guitars, vocals, stuff like that. My goal here is to merely make you aware of the consideration and what frequencies you want to start with when you're going to tweak your guitar sound. So let's listen with the bass and drums and see how that affects here. I've improved definition a little bit. If I bring that down, you can the sound almost goes away from you. When you bring that 5 to 6,000 hertz up, the sound almost comes closer to you in context. It's kind of neat. So that's the second tweak, considering your presence. And on guitars, it is primarily 5 to 6,000 hertz. The last area to dive into when you're making EQ tweaks on your guitars is the 250 hertz range, which can either be considered warmth or mud. It can do one of two things depending on what else is going on. So we've got 80 hertz and below, we've got 5 to 6,000 hertz, and then we've got 250 hertz, which we could consider warmth or mud. Those are our three areas. So knowing that I already have the other two tweaks in place, presence and my high pass, I'm going to grab this one right here. Currently it's set at 240 hertz, you can see here, and haven't boosted it at all. Let's listen to the guitar by itself. So no bass and drums. Get a feel for how that frequency impacts this little passage. So when you really crank it up, it begins to sound boxy, and sometimes depending on how it's mic'd, it can sound boxy by itself. So if you do get that boxy sound, consider dipping around 250. Let's bring it down a little. But when it's boosted in moderation, you feel a sense of warmth. Let's widen right here. Let's widen our cue just a little bit. It creates a nice compensation for the fact that we got rid of the lows, and it thickens it up a little bit without getting in the way of the bass. At least I think. We'll test our theory here in a second. Warm. It's definitely warm there. Sounds a little bit thin there. Okay, let's listen to it in context with the rhythm section. So I think that wide boost at around 250 really helped warm up the sound of that guitar, given the fact that we got rid of some of that low end earlier, and it made it sit well when we put it in with the rhythm section. So those are the three areas you want to keep in mind when you're tweaking the sound of your guitar from an EQ perspective. I encourage you to try these on your electric guitars as well, particularly mic'd electric guitars. That's where you're going to hear probably the most difference, because a lot of amp modeling for electric guitars, they already have some of those compensations built in, whereas acoustically recorded instruments a lot of times need to be treated like this, because you're dealing with rooms, you're dealing with possibly imperfect miking setups, stuff like that. So keep in mind, high pass filter around 82 hertz, presence boost between 5 and 6,000 hertz, or presence cut, depending on what you need, and mud, or warmth, around 250 hertz. And keep in mind that you don't always need to boost, you don't always need to cut. You need to listen and make decisions from there. But having these 3 frequency ranges in mind and what they are designed to bring out or help you get rid of is going to be really key in helping you make your acoustic guitar tracks and your guitar tracks in general sound great. Don't forget to check out the free recording course in the link below if you want to take this stuff further. We'll see you for more.